Serious, what celebrity death hit you the hardest? I shared my story in my own comment, but just so people can know the magic that was this man. Robin Williams. I've told this story on other accounts, but I loved telling it. As a kid, I was one of 10 winners for a sweepstakes to be a pen pal with Robin for a year. I was stoked, and I'm like 8 or 9 years old. My brother and sister told me it probably wasn't going to be him, just a publicist or intern. I didn't care. For months we sent so many letters of silliness. All his letters were long, and he really loved talking about Zelda. She's a little older than me, and all the new projects he was working on. My family went to Disney that summer, and I wrote a letter while in the car, and I was determined to give it to Genie because I was convinced he was always playing him in the costume and wanted to hand-deliver at least one. My brother and sister were again deterring me, but I wasn't breaking my date. Well, of all coincidences in the world, Robin actually was there signing autographs. I was ecstatic, literally jumping for joy as I'm in line. We get to him and I'm rambling like a motherfucker telling him how I was a winner and about the letter and yada yada. He just goes, "Kyle," with a massive grin and opens his coat and pulls out my letter from a month prior that was with a few others. Apparently he kept all our letters on him while on the road to help cheer himself up, which devastates me now thinking about what that meant. I almost fainted. I cannot express the amount of electric energy surging through me knowing Robin Williams actually wrote me, knew me, and I believe truly loved me and those other kids like we were his children. I'll never ever claim anybody was a bigger fan of his than Zelda. I respect her too much to say that. But I'm definitely his second biggest fan of all time. When he died, I cried into my then wife's arms for a full hour. I felt I really lost a true friend that got me through so much growing up. A man that could get my siblings and I to shut up and just revel in his magic for hours at a time. I miss you, Robin. Every day, Mr. Rogers. As a kid growing up in Pittsburgh, so many of my afternoons were spent exploring a new world with him. I had a friend in college that I talked to after Mr. Rogers had passed, and he had said that when he and his brother were sad they both watched his show because it felt like somebody loved them.
Hey guys, much like you, I love reading people's stories on Ask Reddit. Unfortunately, there's a lot of weird middle school level, just thought experiment type hypotheticals like "nice try, Baskin Robbins." I don't find this compelling, so that's why I've made it my mission to trawl and crawl through Ask Reddit and find the very best content and put it in your ears. That's why I'm begging you, like and subscribe. If there's anything I can do to help you out, give you the kind of content that you crave to help you get through your workday, let me know in a comment. But please, like and subscribe.
It was tragic, but what's really tragic is everyone using him a symbol of depression. Robin Williams didn't kill himself because he was depressed. He killed himself because of his struggles with Lewy body disease, an aggressive form of dementia that was literally making him lose his mind. Chris Cornell grew up with Soundgarden and Temple of the Dog. The first Audioslave album came out when I was in high school. Epic sound, seemed like a great guy. I thought he was going to survive the grunge curse. The only one left from that era now is Eddie Vedder. Not exactly a celebrity, but Satoru Iwata. I loved many Nintendo games during his era as CEO, and after his passing I was in awe at how much he did personally to save games that were in development hell, as well as him choosing to take personal responsibility for the losses Nintendo saw during the Wii by cutting his paycheck rather than letting go of employees. Truly an exemplary man if ever I'd seen one. Philip Seymour Hoffman. You can be clean for 20 years and are still at risk of relapse. He did lose one of his support networks, falling out with air after drinking for the first time in decades, but if it's not safe from addiction, whoing is. I understand there's a guy inside me who wants to lay in bed, smoke weed all day, and watch cartoons and old movies. My whole life is a series of stratagems to avoid and outwit that guy. Anthony Bourdain. I love this quote so much, man. Rip. Thank you for the awards and all the replies. Take care of yourselves. Anthony Bourdain. The man was successful. He had many good friends, and yet he was so miserable he took his own life. Robin Williams' suicide, I understood. His quality of life was going to go downhill fast. I feel like if Bourdain got the right help he could have had a happy life. Christina Grimmie. I used to follow her YouTube channel very early on, long before she became famous, and I was so excited that she made it on The Voice. Then one random day a crazy fan shot and killed her. Celebrity deaths don't really get to me, but hers hit me hard for a while. She had a very bright future ahead of her, and it was all taken away in seconds. He died a couple of weeks before I started university. At the freshers' ball, the band stopped playing and asked us to respect a minute's silence for Steve. 1,000 pissed-up teenagers, away from home for the first time, and not one said a word until the minute was over and a spontaneous Steve, Steve, Steve chant broke out. I don't know if any other celebrity could have commanded that much universal respect.
Did you know that when you drink tea from a tea bag, especially a cheap tea bag, you are exposing yourself to microplastics greater in quantity than from any other source? Microplastics are the number one health risk of our generation, and they will have unknown consequences on future generations. So, if you value your health, destroy your tea bags. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy great tea. I'm going to post affiliate links for my own homebrew loose leaf tea concoction that I drink every single day. It has no microplastics, and it honestly tastes better than tea from a tea bag ever did. So be sure to click the links below and get on the loose leaf tea train to avoid poisoning yourself and your children.
Douglas Adams, author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I was kind of a weird kid, had trouble connecting with people. Then I read Hitchhiker's Guide when I was 12-year-old, and it was like a light switching on. The strange twisting logic, the absurdism, the silly cynical ridiculousness of it all, it felt like, for the first time, I had found a worldview and perspective I could relate to. Douglas Adams became this almost mythical figure to me, this strange, distant person I could finally connect with. I desperately wanted to meet him, to be his friend. Then I learned that, a year before I'd even started the books, he died. It honestly crushed me. It felt I'd lost my best friend. I mourned him, and mourned the imagined relationship I could have had with him. Looking back, it was obviously a parasocial relationship, and my fantasies about this 50-year-old British author becoming buddies with a 12-year-old kid living in the us were nonsense, but I still felt it acutely at the time. David Bowie. I just sat on my bed and sobbed. It didn't help that I got like 15 texts and Facebook messages from friends and family asking if I had heard or breaking the news to me. Eater, wow, this blew up. Thank you for the awards. Love all you crazy cats. George Carlin. I grew up watching him and saw his live shows 3 times. Kinda felt like my amazing uncle died. Still miss him to this day. Wow. This post really took off. Thanks all for the awards. I do miss George though. I hope this post reminds us all what an incredible talent he was and is still missed. Oh man, every time I think of Phil I think, fuck his fucking shitbag wife. Why couldn't she just take herself out? Why take Phil, too? And then I remember that Andy Dick story and get mad at him, again. Phil Hartman was so awesome. Here's the story about Andy Dick, told by John Lovitz. It's not what I heard back when the incident happened, sorry for misleading. For what it's worth to you, I went to college and was close with his daughter. I didn't know she was related until I mentioned I had made a new friend freshman year to my parents, and naturally they recognized her last name. She's doing really well. Can't speak to how she deals with her past day in and day out, but she grew up to be a wonderful person, and I was lucky enough to go to her wedding and share in that moment in her life. Phil was an amazing man. Taken from us way too soon. I met him once at a tiny anime con, and while I knew his face and knew that I should know his name, I couldn't place it. We chatted about Halo for a bit over an hour because he seemed super into it. Maybe he wanted a break from all the Mythbusters talk. But he was super nice. This dog for years randomly this guy's guitar videos show up in my recommended on YouTube, and in a lot of them the dog is just chilling there. Well, this week, he posted this video announcing the dog had died, and I cried. I usually am like, oh no, when a famous person dies, but it doesn't really impact me. But this dog, man, it got to me. It was also such an awful, insulting end for such a brilliant mind. His utter rage at what was happening to him, and there was nothing he could do about it, was so damn painful. He did some really emotional interviews on UK television. One I really remember was one he did to raise awareness on Alzheimer's on news, where you could tell he was just brought to tears at not being able to communicate how he used to. Then a year after he passed, there was a memorial show for him where Neil Gaiman started crying, saying he just wanted his friend back, and it broke me. I still haven't read The Shepherd's Crown, because then when I do there'll be no more Discworld books left to read. I think Alex Trebek and Steve Irwin are the only two I've ever teared up over. I have a lot of good memories growing up of watching Jeopardy with my mum, and it felt like a little piece of me was lost when I heard of his passing. I was just a kid when Steve Irwin died, but I still remember my mum sitting me down and explaining to me what had happened, as if he were a member of the family. He instilled a love of animals in me that I still have to this day, and I'm eternally grateful to him for how he treated the creatures he interacted with. Seeing Robert follow in his footsteps also makes me feel proud in some strange way. Christina Grimmie. She wasn't super famous, but she was fairly big on YouTube and made it to The Voice and stuff, did some other things. She was shot dead signing autographs at age 22. It still hits me like a brick sometimes. I followed her for years growing up.
I turned 36 this year, and I decided to focus on my physical fitness, so I bought a swim club membership. The only problem was, most of the time when I go swimming, I wind up getting an ear infection. So it turns out that normal earplugs, they kind of irritate your ear canal, they don't really work, they don't keep the water out, but there is an amazing kind of earplug. It's called Mack's Pillow Soft Silicone earplugs that, they feel great, they keep the water out 100%, they're reusable, and they don't irritate your ear canal at all, no issues. If you've ever had a severe ear infection, you don't want to experience that again. It can permanently damage your hearing if you're unlucky. So investing in these earplugs is definitely a good idea. Also, when my baby was crying later this year and I could not get to sleep, I used the same earplugs and they worked great. I was able to sleep right next to a crying baby. So be sure to click my affiliate link and purchase some of these Mack's earplugs today.
Neil Peart. Both my dad and I are big Rush fans, so it was heartbreaking knowing that we are never going to see him play live again. I'm happy to see so many share the same feelings. Also, thank you kind strangers for the awards. They are my first ones, and I'm happy it was this comment that got them. Maybe it's because I don't follow celebrity news, but it genuinely took me by surprise that he had cancer for so long. I really respect the actors and studios he worked with for not sharing and not sidelining him until the end. Chadwick seems like such a nice and genuine man. I hope he's now at peace. Also, the way he died. Honestly, arguably the saddest celebrity death, especially from a comedian. He had spent the entire weekend doing drugs with a prostitute, and she had stolen his watch and left the room, and his last words were begging her to come back, please. Don't leave. It's not you. He didn't talk about it with anyone. He did Five Bloods with Spike Lee and Ma Rainey just before he died, and none of those directors, cast, etc. had a clue. One of the actors on Five Bloods said he noticed he has a masseuse give him rub-downs during downtime and thought he'd just gone Hollywood. He regretted thinking that, but how could he know? He didn't even tell Disney, and they had been prepping for, had to start from scratch. That one fucked me up. Hybrid Theory was the first album I bought where I honestly, thoroughly enjoyed every track. I was 15, and that whole album was a roller coaster of emotions for me. From highs to lows, each song points to a specific memory in my mind. Never really cared for any other of their other albums, but the way he went out just fit my view of life. Some people who appear to have a lot can be missing something big, which might seem insignificant to those who appear to have little, and vice versa.
Do you have any idea how convenient it is to use a Keurig machine for brewing coffee or tea? Personally, I gave up coffee a long time ago, but I was able to get a great, delicious cup of coffee in just seconds with no cleanup, no extra work using a Keurig machine and a K-cup. And now I use my Keurig machine to brew tea, loose leaf tea, every day that I drink. And I also use it to make oatmeal and, anything else that you can put hot water into. So if you don't have a Keurig machine in your house, you're missing out. Try my affiliate link below in the description of the video, and you too can enjoy a great cup of coffee in seconds any time of day.